Hello and welcome to week 8 for Vectorworks 2020. So now we have our lights in the event space, but we want to see if they're actually going to do what we want them to do. So we can visualize these lights now that we've put them into a 3D space, right? They're on a truss in 3D space. And actually, I'm noticing that these ones clamp to the top of the truss. This one's actually down where I want it to be. So I'm going to the way I'm going to adjust this, I'm going to hit this light and see where its Z-axis is, 35. And I can highlight these ones that didn't go to the right point and just adjust their z-axis down, and they'll automatically clamp to that cord of truss rather than the top. So I have these lights here, and I want them to focus towards the stage. So I think the first thing I want to have is one down center. Now there's a couple different tools that are really useful here. The first is the focus point tool, which all you have to do is just click where you want your focus point to be, and then this little window is going to pop up asking you for a name. So I'm going to actually make this front light down center, and I want the focus height to be about 6 feet, and now I have a little focus point down center. This should be the central point of our stage, and I can verify that by using the double line tool here. And yep, if I hit one side of the stage, it hits the other side, so we are good. So I want a light exactly on center, so I'm going to take this and just verify, snap this to 90. Oops, I need to draw another line. I'm just going to make sure that this light, I think actually, yeah, these are all just a little bit off of center. Looks like that my seats may be a little bit off center in my drawing, which I'm not going to worry too much about for the lighting situation here. So anyway, so I have this light here that I want to focus on this focus point here. So all you have to do is go down in the object info palette, and there's a little category that says focus. And all I need to make sure is that what's in this box matches this right here. So if I hit FLDC, you'll notice now in the 3D rendering, that light's actually pointing towards that focus point. Okay. So how do I see what this light is doing? Well, once you select a light in the object info palette, there'll be these options, draw a beam and draw a beam as 3D solid. So here's the draw beam tool. And now I can see the area of light that my light is hitting at the focus point. Now I'm going to recommend, this shows both the beam angle and the field angle. I'm going to recommend in the settings, because you can manually adjust these, that you go ahead and delete the beam angle. You just focus on field angle for this exercise. So we're only looking at field angle, one measurement. Oh, this light's pretty big for this area, right? It's a pretty wide, covers quite an area. And it's actually not, if you notice, it's not at 6 feet from the stage, it's at 6 feet from ground level. So for the focus points, you're going to want to hit the stage and say, okay, my stage is how high? 4 feet. So my focus point, which I'm going to select here, actually wants to be 6 plus 4, which is going to be 10 feet. Right, so now my focus point is 10 feet from the, or 6 feet from the stage level, 10 feet from the from the Z0, which is the floor of the room, but 6 feet from the stage level. So now this is covering the stage. It's still covering, if you look at, quite a large range. But how do I know where this falls on the floor versus in the air? Well, that's what we call fall off distance. So show beam at fall off point, focus and fall off point, and then also make sure that your fall off distance is 6 feet. It wants to be the same as your focus point. Okay, so you have your focus point here, which is where your light is focused. Your fall off is 6 feet, which is equal to where it's going to land on the stage. And that line shows that it's going to fall off way back there. But now you have a beam of light that goes all the way down to the stage, and also shows you at the cutting plane how much light coverage you're getting at the height of a tall person, right? Taller is going to cover, if you covers everything tall, it's going to mostly cover everything low as well. So that's why we generally use 6 feet as a good rule. Okay, so this is what this looks like this. Now, we generally, in lighting design, tend to think of about 10 feet across as a good rule, and you generally want to have about 100 foot candles. 100 foot candles is a measurement of the brightness of the light when it hits its target, so when it's at this point. So the way I can tell that is actually in the object info palette. So you'll see vertical focus angle, which we're a little bit steep actually for maybe we want to be generally, I think I said about 45, 42.5 seems to be about the right number. So this whole thing may want to move back a little bit to get the right angle, but I'm not too worried about angle right now. And this should say throw distance is 34 feet. And you can use that to calculate the foot candles. For this exercise, for this assignment, and for the final, we're not going to worry too much about foot candles, but knowing the throw distance is how you would then calculate the foot candles. And so at this point, I want to measure across. We say that we generally want a light to cover about 10 feet. So if I go here, and because I'm using the double line tool, I'm just going to hit 5 feet. And put it at 180. Need to turn on some mapping. All right, so that's about a 10-foot line in between, and you'll notice that, yeah, that light is not quite, it's a little bit too big, right? And also it's going way off the back here. So I'm going to replace lighting device. Right now I have a 36 degree, right, because there's nothing in the barrel. So I have a 36 degree. I'm going to drop it down to, let's see, source 4. I'm going to drop it down to a 26 degree. It's a little bit narrower. And again, now you have 1.5 million lines because we're showing beam and field angle. Go ahead and just delete the beam angle again from this instrument. So now we're a little bit closer, but we're still pretty wide. Let's see what a 19 degree looks like. And we'll delete the beam angle. That looks about right. Right, so maybe a little bit bigger, but it hits, and you don't have to worry too much about the light hitting the back wall. You don't have to do any shutter cuts. Like, this is all very nice here. So I'm looking holistically at what the beam is doing, right? I wanted to cover this area on the head, but I'm also making sure that's not going to cause any trouble for me back here. Because if it hits the back wall, I'm going to need to cut off a little bit, which is going to affect my coverage area here, which is why you don't want to go too shallow of an angle when adjusting lights. So the beauty of this now is that I actually can say, okay, I want to cover the full front end of the stage. And to do that, you generally want your, I'm going to turn off my draw beam for a second. You normally want your beams to overlap by about 20 to 30%. So to do that, I'm going to hit the Command D and Command M tools, and I'm just going to say -4 feet to the left. Which I think actually I'm going to say 5 feet, and we'll see how that goes. So that's 5 feet to the left, and that says FLDD, which is just the next thing in the sequence, which is how it automatically numbers. I could make that down right or something. So I'm going to hit this Command D, Command M, and I'm going to move this also -5 feet. And I'm just going to see what this does. Now I have to adjust the focus of it, right? This one, if I turn it on, and I'll actually show you, if I turn it on, it's going to still be focused where it was copied from its focus. So in order to make it go to the next one, FLDD. Okay? So now it's focused at the new focus point that we made. So I'm looking at that one, and I'm looking at this. Draw the beam of this one, draw the beam of that. And this shows a pretty nice overlap. This is maybe a little bit too much. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the beams. And I'm going to move this and the light, because I want them to be, it's a front light. I'm going to move this over another, let's say 2 feet. Okay, and I'm going to turn on my 2 lights again. And that's pretty overlapped. That's like a really good solid overlap. You could probably get away with a little bit more, but I think that's fine for me. So about 7 feet, because I did 5 feet and then 2 feet, seems to be about right for my particular space. And we're covering all the way down stage. And that's pretty nice, so we can do that. And then let's keep moving. So now what I can do, though, is I can actually do this, where I highlight the light, which is, we'll turn off the draw beams. Highlight this and highlight this, and I'll do Command D, Command M. I'm going to go minus 7 feet. And let's draw the beam for this one. First, I have to adjust the focus point of the light, right? So this is, oh, and yes, we want to save. Draw a beam. Oh, it's over the D, so let's make it DE. And this is working out pretty well, actually. We've got coverage. The only place we don't have coverage is right at the tippy edge of the stage there, which actually isn't too terrible. Rarely is someone going to go over into that corner, so that doesn't look too bad. So great. So I've started to adjust the light here. Now I'm going to show an example of what happens if, for example, and let me turn off the draw beam on this instrument. What if this was over here and I move the light the same amount, Command M, and I draw a beam? Well, now I'm kind of shooting off the side of the stage here, right? So this is where shutters come into play, and you can shutter cut just like you can in a normal light. You can shutter cut. So you have different shutters, and right now I'm going to use the right shutter to cut off, and you can also adjust the angle to make it match the line that you need it to match. So this is just sort of trial and error, right? I'm just figuring out what's the right angle to make this work and what's the right depth. And now I've cut off to the edge of the stage. So this shows what we've done. Oh, and actually I'm realizing this also clamped into the truss rather than at it. So we're going to put this back down at 30, put these lights back down at 35. This is something with truss. Sometimes it clamps to the wrong height. So you just got to be careful. So that one, now we're down there. I'm sure since it's all the same as this one, up and down stage, I'm sure it won't hit the wall. Yeah, it's fine. So shutter cuts, and again, you can adjust shutter cuts from the top and the bottom. You know, you can do all sorts of things. Remember that it is opposite, right? So if you're adjusting the right shutter, you're actually adjusting the left side of the beam. If you're adjusting the top shutter, you're actually adjusting the bottom side of the beam in relation to the light. So just remember that when you're doing this, it is just like a normal lighting fixture that's sort of backwards from what you'd think it would be. So that's how we render lights. And so, you know, what you're going to want to do to create a nice even wash of the stage is create enough positions and enough fixtures where you can up and down stage, right? So you want to also do, if it works 7 feet this way, it probably is about 7 feet this way or something like that. But you can experiment with focus points and where positions are to make sure that you get nice even coverage of, you know, a couple of systems of light for whatever your event needs. So I just did a quick example of these 3 here. And next I'm going to show you how we're going to turn these on and what that's going to look like. So I'll do that in the next video. Thanks and have a good day.